Two students from the small Dutch town of Amersfoort, Kris and Lisanne Froon, have long wanted to visit Latin America. Their choice eventually fell on Panama. They planned a 6-week trip. For the first 2 weeks, they had to live in the resort province of Bocas del Toro. And then, for the remaining 4 weeks, to go inland to a small settlement, Boquete, where there was a Spanish-language school focused on tourists from Europe. Spanish training had to take place in a practice mode. In other words, the girls had to do various jobs socially, for example. On February 15, 2014, friends with local school children will arrive at Amsterdam Airport. Schiphol parents escorting the girls goodbye before a long separation will take pictures of their children. Lisanne and Kris will pass customs control and hide behind the doors of the waiting room. No more parents will see them. About the girls themselves know a little Kris Kremers by graduation should have been. Art critic was an open and sociable person. Trip to Panama she paid from her own savings, saved for it at least 6 months, moonlighting as a waitress at a local restaurant, where she met Lisanne. Lisanne studied as a psychologist, dreamed of working abroad in the southern countries, which in turn required knowledge of other languages, especially Spanish. A trip to Panama was partly a gift from her parents, a kind of advance for a future diploma. With a height of 184 centimeters, Lisanne successfully played for the student volleyball team the first 2 weeks of the trip, and Kris and Lisanne will spend as planned in the Boquete del Toro. Lisanne was photographed with a parrot and wrote in social networks enthusiastic responses about Panama. Kris posted on his Facebook page photos from Bocas with a standard resort theme, beach sea starfish on March 29th as planned. Kris and Lisanne move in a bucket. Despite the fact that Boquete is located far from the sea, it is still a major tourist center of Panama. The main attraction is more than a 3-kilometer mountain of volcanic origin. In good weather, the highest peak of Panama is visible from both the Antarctic and the Pacific Ocean. Although the bar is quite a gentle, mountain climbing to a 3-kilometer height is naturally associated with certain difficulties. Therefore, most of the hiking trails in the vicinity of the Boquete are laid not on the bar, but on nearby hills and hills. There are also several viewing platforms with views of the city and the volcano that erupted last 500 years ago. And of course, no tourist who finds himself in Central America will not be able to pass by the opportunity to look at the jungle with at least one eye. Formally, they begin immediately after leaving the package. In fact, the town itself lies in the middle of the jungle. However, on the slopes from the city side, the jungle is quite civilized. You can even say sham, but in order to appreciate the real beauty of the rainforest, you need to go to the outside of the city. The slopes of the mountains, 6 to 7 kilometers from the city. The jungle looks like this. Starting the story directly about the criminal component of this story, it should of course be said that the attempts of the media researchers to clearly reconstruct the events of March 31st and April 1st ended in complete failure. Due to the complete inconsistency of the testimony, with some facts which will become known a little later. But there is nowhere to go, so the events of these days will be presented in exactly the same sequence as it sounded in the reports of the Panamanian police and the press. Lisanne and Kris are moving to Boquete by preliminary. Arrangements rent a room in the annex of the house at a woman named Miriam. She rents out a room under contract.
With Spanish schoolroom, apparently.
Has a separate entrance. Girls get 2 pairs of keys. After breakfast together, the girls go to inspect city and are coming back in the evening of something unusual or presence. Third persons with girls Miriam did not notice. Girls' early morning leaves language school where gets the news that practice will start a week later than scheduled. According to some testimonies, the girls, especially Lisanne, were upset at school. They talked to the manager of the educational institution, and then with the local guide, Felizano Gonzalez, they order his escort for 2 hiking routes on Wednesday to the so-called Strawberry Farm located at the foot of the volcano bar, and on Saturday directly to the volcano itself in the same day. Girls' last contact with parents. By WhatsApp, we are fine. Talk later. This was the last message Lisanne. Girls are seen in a cafe near the school in Society of 2 young people. Dedication guide Felizano Gonzalez. At this time, girls leave the Spanish language school afterwards. Felizano repeatedly repeated that he obviously was the last to see the girls in the bucket. Taxi driver Leonardo Mastinu sees voting girls on road near Spanish school. He lets them down for $5 to the start of the walking route. LP pianist Giovanni is the owner of the cafe. Being at the start, and the pianist sees the girls, they ask him some questions about the route. One of the cafe workers sees the girls leaving along the route and gives them guides. His dog Blue. By wife testimony, the owner of the cafe, Doris, in an hour Blue will come back alone. Someone, Pedro Capone, possibly owner. One of the cafes or shop or pianist sees 2 girls back from the route. They ask him how to get to the city. He shows them the place where you can catch a taxi or get on the bus. But which way did the girls go? Pedro did not see. Some American living near a startup pianist sees 2 girls back from the route. They are talking to the owner of one of the cafes, obviously asking how to get to the city. As many who have visited Panama tell, the use of dogs as guides is a common practice, in case tourists lose orientation and correct direction. 4-legged guide can be given a command home, and he will bring out without problems. Getting lost back in town is possible. The main witness in this case is a husky named Blue. Felizano Gonzalez, he repeatedly criticized local police for insufficient activity on lawsuits, events, and after the disappearance of the girls collected small volunteer. A squad of local Indians and himself went to the jungle. In addition, in an interview, he told the Dutch press that in the jungle on the other side of the mountains, there are many abandoned huts of countryside that are not indicated anywhere on the maps. Anyone lives there or not is unknown even to him. Taxi driver who drove the girls allegedly on April 1st. Before the start of El Pianist, a year after the described events, will die not suspicious but very ridiculous. Death of a young 34-year-old man. Will feel bad, will fall into a body of water and drown. Large-scale search for girls did not lead to anything, and for a long time it seemed that the details of this disappearance story would remain forever unclear, but after 2.5 months on June 14, 2014, an unexpected turn occurred in this story. On this day, a local gay living on the Caribbean side while working in a small rice field found a blue backpack in a shallow riverbed near a flowing river. The contents of the backpack were as follows: a foreign passport in the name of Alison Froon. Insurance medical card on. Name: Kris Kremers, $83 USA, 2 pairs. Cheap sunglasses, 2 mobile phones. 2 bottle water camera. As a result of various examinations of found items will be established. The DNA of 2 unknowns will be found on the backpack itself. On the mobile phones of girls, according to official data, will be found more than a dozen different fingerprints. Unofficial, 36 on the state of technical serviceability of mobile phones, and camera police said nothing. At the place where the backpack was found, police will take 6 samples to isolate DNA. 5. Prob won't give any result. DNA 6th sample belonged to an employee of the Institute. Forensics who conducted this examination So let's move again to the 1st of April 2000. 14th year photography time contradicted everyone. Testimonies according to photographic material of the girl began their journey on the Alpinist, not after 2 hours, and much earlier, approximately as much as 10:45. The first of the published photos was taken at 12:03 in the photo of Kris in her hands. She holds a certain object similar to a plastic bottle, which will then be found in a backpack. The next published photo was taken at 12:22. The girls were already there, about 2 hours in the pianist CLP, apparently this one. The hiking route did not cause them special emotions like us. See, they took only 3 photos. In 2 hours of hiking, the next picture is taken in 13:01 here. Everything is just Lisanne on Mirador. This photo was taken 6 seconds after the previous Lisanne are photographed, overlooking the opposite side of the Mirador. Frankly, highlight the differences in cloudiness in both photos. About 13:00 exact time unknown. The only photo taken on mobile or single. Posted Kris on Mirador next picture. Made at 13:20 early Caribbean descent Kris and the bagel. The number of photos increases dramatically based on the numbering and time. You can see that in 19 minutes, the girls took 5 photos. This photo is taken at 13:54. It is called Querbad Transition through Creek of just on Caribbean descents, them two. This is the first one. 13:54. 8 seconds after the previous photo, Kris is photographed on the other side of the stream, and the police and the girls' parents have repeatedly confirmed this the last photo taken by the girls on April 1st. What the girls did for the next almost 2 hours is unknown. At 16:39, Kris will dial the number 112 on his mobile phone. This is the emergency number of the rescue service in the Netherlands and many other European countries. 12 minutes later, at 16:51, Lisanne will follow the example of a friend also typing 112 on her Samsung 2nd of April, this time first at 06:58, tried to get through Lisanne. Kris makes his attempt at 08:14 and no longer uses that day his iPhone. Lisanne tries to call again 10:53 and 13:56. This time she dials not only 112 but also tries to call directly to 911. Year or this case will enter the piggy bank of Unsolved. 3rd of April at 09:33. Kris tries to contact again 911, but all in vain. It was the last call. 4th of April. Kris twice at 10, 16 and 13:45 turns on his mobile on the phone. Weather SAN, no activity on this day is not recorded. The 5th of April, the phone Allison turns on at night. At 04:50 remains on for 10 minutes, as a result of which the phone is completely discharged and turned off the phone. Kris turns on twice at 10:50 and 13:37. Tragedies and incidents are still unknown. Someone unexpectedly turn on the camera and make on him within 3 hours exactly 90 pictures. That is, on average, 1 picture in 2 minutes. Unfortunately, 87 of them will be taken in absolute darkness, without a flash of the 3 pictures taken with a flash. Initially will be published only 2. This picture took 01:38. The next resulting photo was taken 01:39. Almost 6 months after that, Kris Kremers' parents still decided to show the last 3rd photo. The photo was shown in one of the programs of Dutch television. There are much more mysteries in this story than answers, and will it be known what really happened?